Hi, this is Robert Taylor. Today I'm reviewing the Wilson Watt Puppy. I hope you enjoy it.
Just a brief interruption, esteemed viewers. If you enjoy our videos, you might also like our other work for audiophiles and music lovers: written equipment reviews, editor's choice ratings, product news, and music reviews. Get the latest each week with a free subscription to our email newsletters. A link is in the description.
The Watt Puppy takes some of the best attributes from many types of speakers. The speaker images like a mini monitor, but it plays full range and it has the dynamics of a much larger speaker. And it has the mid-range magic of a planar speaker. For a number of years, I owned a number of planar speakers and I always loved the mid-range, but I could overlook problems like the narrow sweet spot, restricted deep bass, lack of dynamics, and poor off-axis frequency response. Up until now, there was always some aspect of planar speakers that I always missed with a conventional box speaker. I have to say now that is not the case. Okay, let me get this out of the way up front. The speaker in the finish that is shown in this video costs $44,500. That being said, the speaker is 41 and 11/32 inches high, 12 inches wide, and 18 and 11/16 inches deep. The weight of the speaker is 160 pounds. Both the upper and lower cabinets are ported on the back panel. The speaker has a listed frequency response of 26 Hz to 30,000 Hz. The nominal impedance is 4 ohms, but the speaker does dip to 2.7 ohms, so a higher power amplifier might be needed. The stated sensitivity is 89 decibels, 1 watt, 1 meter. I did some listening to test tones and I could clearly hear a 20 Hertz test tone from the speakers. The Watt has what Wilson calls a Synergy carbon tweeter, originally designed for the Alex V. This is a 1-inch silk dome tweeter that is custom designed for Wilson Audio. The Watt also contains a 7-inch mid-range originally designed for the Chronosonic XVX that Wilson calls a Quadramag. The cabinet is made of Wilson proprietary composite materials known as X for the cabinet walls, and the top panel of the Puppy is made of Wilson's V material. The V material is where the Watt sits on top of the Puppy. I don't think there's any wood or wood-based products inside the cabinet. The cabinet is incredibly heavy, very inert, and when you tap on the cabinet, you hear very little sound and it sounds like there's no resonance to it. The speaker spent a couple of days in my garage in 10-degree temperatures. I had to wait for a friend to come over and help me move these heavy things into the house. It took more than 36 hours for the cabinet to warm up to room temperature. I was told that because there are no wood products in it, in the speaker, and that the composite materials have a different heat retention than conventional wood products, so that was the reason why it took so long to warm up. The speaker is incredibly well finished in Wilson's cranberry pearl color. Everyone who's been in my listening room and seen this speaker thinks it looks beautiful. I had a couple of different color samples from Wilson and I showed these samples to the person whose opinion counts the most, my girlfriend Cindy, and she said go with the cranberry pearl, and I agree. It was my favorite also. At some point this pair of speakers won't be in my house but would be in our house, so my girlfriend's opinion carries the most weight. One other thing I will say about the color of the speakers is when they arrived, I compared the sample that I got from Wilson to the finished speaker, and I couldn't see any color variation whatsoever between the two. Kudos to Wilson and their finishing department. One other cool touch on the speaker is the Wilson's 50th anniversary medallion on the back is red instead of being silver like the rest of the hardware on the speaker is. I found out that if you buy the speaker in a red color, the medallion on the back is red also. The Watt Puppy has the same driver complement as the next model up, the Sasha V. The differences between the Watt Puppy and the Sasha V are the Sasha's cabinet is substantially bigger at approximately 4 inches higher, 2.5 inches wider, and almost 6 inches deeper. The Sasha V is also heavier, weighing in at 80 pounds more than the Watt Puppy. The time alignment setup is a little more sophisticated on the Sasha V, and the Sasha V, along with the other larger speakers in the Wilson lineup, come as standard the acoustic diode spikes. Seeing both speakers side by side, I could tell that the Sasha V would probably be a little too big for my room width-wise. The speakers were shipped directly to my home. They came both speakers inside of wooden crates. The crates were strapped to a pallet and they were well packed and secured for transport. The thing that really impressed me the most was the speakers were shipped from Wilson's factory in Utah via air freight instead of bouncing around on a truck for 1,700 miles. The speakers flew into O'Hare Airport. They were picked up by a transport company, which then brought them to my house. When the speakers were set up, I had the original spikes that ships with the speakers installed. I was told by a number of people that the acoustic diodes were a noticeable upgrade for this speaker. I contacted Wilson and they said try them out for 30 days. If I wasn't happy, send the spikes back and I would get a full refund. About 3 weeks later, I got the set of acoustic diodes and replaced the original spikes. There was a definite difference. Imaging got better, bass got tighter, mid-range got a little clearer. I was shocked at the improvement just changing the spikes made. At $3,400, this is definitely one to think about, but you can definitely hear the sonic improvement. My high-level thoughts on the sound of this speaker boils down to power with clarity. This is the most dynamic speaker I've ever had in my listening room. Having owned a number of planar speakers over the years, I know some may do dynamics slightly faster, but you can clearly hear when a planar speaker hits its limit on how loud it can play or how low it can go. I try to go and listen to live music at least once a month, maybe once every couple of months, depending on how busy I am. And with these speakers, they sound the closest to live music as I've ever had in my listening room. And I'm not necessarily referring to overall loudness, I'm referring to the dynamic swings and contrast within music. The texture you hear out of live music comes forth on this speaker better than any I've ever had in my system. You can hear the mechanics of the music better than anything else I've ever heard. For example, a piano player pressing the keys using the levers on the foot pedal, a saxophone player with his fingers running up and down the keys, or a trumpet player pressing the valves on his instrument. I have a drum set in this house and I can bang on a cymbal in my listening room and it sounds pretty close to what I hear on well-recorded music with this speaker. This speaker will play at extremely loud volume levels, much higher than I normally listen to, and it will play at the kind of volume levels that you might hear at some live music events. To burn equipment in, sometimes I'll turn on internet stream of WFMT, which is a classical music station here in Chicago. I'll have the speakers playing in the background while I'm doing other things around the house, and then I'll walk into the room while the system is playing and stop and take a listen. And sometimes I just think to myself, wow, this really sounds good, even though it's an internet radio stream playing at a fairly low bit rate, but it shows what the speakers can do with lesser quality sources, and it can still sound quite compelling. Sheila Jordan and Harvey Schwartz do a song called You Don't Know What Love Is from an album called Songs From Within. This track, along with all the other tracks on this album, are Sheila Jordan on vocals and Harvey Schwartz on bass. There are no other musicians on this album. The songs has Sheila Jordan inside the left speaker. Harvey Schwartz is playing just inside the right speaker. At a certain point, Sheila Jordan goes from very quiet to very loud in one phrase. I've been listening to this album for about 25 years and I've never heard the dynamics that explosive before on this song. Sheila Jordan's voice is very natural sounding. You can hear all the phrasing and intonations, while clearly Harvey Schwartz's bass is excellent with his detail and texture. This was recorded in a moderately live room, so you can hear the changes in volume and the reverberation inside the room. Both musicians sound like they're placed the way you would see them on a stage, with Sheila Jordan slightly in front of Harvey Schwartz. Since I've had these speakers, I've been thinking about what can I play to hear how low the bottom end can go on this speaker. So I decided to try and play an old audiophile blast from the past. Eric Kunzel and the Cincinnati Pops during the 1812 Overture on Tellark Records. For those who don't know, the finale of this version of the 1812 Overture has real cannons going off at the end of the piece. I've heard this on much larger systems, so I know what kind of power this record can produce at the low end. When playing this on the Watt Puppies, I could feel the floor rumble from the cannon shots, but the speaker never sounded like it was overtaxed in any way. I recently discovered the Silk Road Ensemble. This is a group of Eastern and Western musicians originally founded by Yo-Yo Ma. Rhiannon Gittins is its current musical director. I've been listening to the album called American Railroad. One of the standout songs on this album is called Have You Seen My Man, with guest starring vocalist Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, along with Rhiannon Gittins. This is a traditional blues, folk / roots music kind of a song played on traditional Asian instruments. The entire album is basically traditional sounding world music played on non-conventional instruments for that style of music. The album is well recorded and it's like a buffet of interesting sounds you normally wouldn't hear together. Some of the tracks are just percussion, while some tracks have vocals, some tracks don't. It's just kind of a mishmash of all types of songs and music. This sounds like it's recorded in a very large space and you can hear it. One of the few Cassandra Wilson albums I never really listened to but recently discovered was Thunderbird. This is one of her last albums and I'm not sure if she's still actually making music currently, but she does a version of Red River Valley that is compelling. Her voice is butterscotch smooth on this song, along with the contrasting bite of the steel guitar. It's just her and a steel guitar, no other instrumentation. You can hear so much of the room. Her vocal phrasing and intonation are spot on. Tonality of the guitar makes this a reference test track. The rest of the album is basically a mix of traditional blues and jazz with all tracks well recorded. But for me, the standout is definitely Red River Valley. I listened to an album called Atlas from an Australian group called Rufus Du Sol. This is all electronica music with lots of phasey special effects and sounds moving around the room that you can clearly hear with these speakers. This is a very well produced dance music, basically. The standout song on this album to me is called Rendezvous. It starts at a fairly moderate tempo and then that tempo builds throughout the course of the song. Along with the speed changes in the tempo, the song also gets louder and louder. Imaging on the song starts to move in the room from behind the speakers at the going toward the listening position, continues past the listening position, then behind the listening position. It's a very interesting sonic effect. Overall, the album is pretty good. I don't listen to a lot of this type of music, but I really enjoy this album. I looked at Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show and decided I'm gonna take a listen to this song, Not Like Us. I never really heard of the song before until I saw all the social media buzz about this song and his performance. So I pulled the song up on Qobuz, gave it a listen, and was pleasantly surprised. I think he's one of the most thoughtful rappers out of all the ones in that genre, so I didn't mind listening to it, but I was surprised at the sound quality. Bass was overdone, of course, but it wasn't overly offensive, but it was fun. The vocals are cleanly heard and clear. Imaging was actually pretty good on this song, considering pretty much I don't think there's a real instrument on the song anywhere to be found. Overall, it was a fun time listening to it. This is the kind of thing you won't hear at an audio show or a dealer, but I like listening to this kind of music in the system. Since I've had these speakers, I've logged about 400 hours of listening time. I've been listening to a lot of jazz vocals, jazz instrumentals, classic rock, lots of R&B, and I can't find any fault with this speaker, the way it performs. It's been a blast rediscovering music that I haven't listened to in a long time on this speaker. All I know is this is the kind of product that makes you want to keep listening. I have a couple of short takes of music I've been listening to since I've gotten these speakers. There's an artist that I recently discovered called Susan Abbuhl. It's spelled Abbuehl. She is a Swiss-Dutch jazz singer, and she has this album called The Gift, which is very moody sounding. A lot of it is lyrics taken from the poetry of Emily Dickinson and other poets of that era. An excellent album, good sounding, very clean. I'm looking forward to listening to more of her music. Another short take is the latest album from Cecile McLaurin-Salvant called, I think it's Mousseline. This is an album sung in French and English. Kind of ranges from current jazz vocals to kind of somewhat more classical stylings of music. Very interesting album as well. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to the Absolute Sounds YouTube channel. There are plenty of more videos for you to watch on high-end audio. Also, check out the Absolute Sounds newsletter, and of course, check out the Absolute Sound magazine. We'll see you on the next one.